Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and if you ever come by the streams or ever look at the background of the footage, you'll usually see me play a variety of different classes. Well, I'm someone who is a rogue main, and I'm probably gonna stick around with Outlaw until the very end of BFA, and I am very interested to see if I'll continue playing that spec going to Shadowlands. But whenever I don't play my rogue, I do love to play alts. I feel like that's the best way to learn what the enemy does, especially in PvP. Just play the actual class, get a little bit of gear so you can understand it better. And from there, I've been just trying to maintain my alts, all one of every class in BFA, at least getting their mythic pluses done, maybe some heroic, and sometimes there are a few alts that I get so into that I love their playstyle. I even go as far as to get their essences. And we all know how much everybody hates this essence grind. So I'll put a list together of 5 alts that I've been enjoying a hell of a lot in patch 8.3, in case you guys wanted to give another alt a go. The first spec on this list is gonna have to be the Frost Death Knight. And in the past, I criticized the Frost Death Knight playstyle. I, like many other people, want Frost Death Knights to come back to the former glory. You know, the two-hand and not really needing to rely on Breath of Sindragosa. I mean, this talent has been the staple of Frost DK gameplay for so long, I almost felt like it should be taken off of the talents and just be put into the base of the spec. But in this patch, with the amount of stats that we have with secondaries, finally Death Knights can drop Breath of Sindragosa. Finally they can go to a more rapid fire build, high amounts of haste, big crit, big octane action, and massive amounts of stacking and stacking and stacking of strength buff. The current playstyle for Frost Death Knight right now with Ice Cap, which plays to the global cooldown reduction of your main ability, gives you such an active playstyle, which is great for anybody who hates any kind of downtime that came from, let's say, the breath build for the DKs. Of course, if you're a Frost Death Knight main, you should probably still explore both builds. Some builds are better than others, depending if you're running keys or certain boss fights, so of course you should have a variety of different builds to fall back to if you are a Death Knight main. However, if you wanted to pick up back your Frost Death Knight and find a more enjoyable playstyle, stack a bunch of crit, stack a bunch of that raw haste, then go talent yourself into Ice Cap and don't even worry about anything. Just stay there, obliterate, Frost Strike, pop Pillar Frost over and over, try to see if you can get a bunch of strength buffs overlapping with one another, and it really does make Frost DK feel finally very, very powerful and even consistent. Of course, not a perfect build. The only thing we're missing at this point with Frost DK is a massive two-hander. I'm hoping that Shadowlands is going to deliver, but until then, this is the best that we have of Frost DK. The next spec on this list is gonna have to be Arcane Mage, and I feel like majority of people that play Mage have one spec in particular that they're drawn to. Whether it is the massive crits and spread fire damage igniting enemies, whether you are maybe a Frost Death Knight that's all about massive glacial spikes, almost like a Chaos Bolt Warlock. And then there's Arcane Mage, which is probably the most misunderstood spec whatsoever, with the easiest rotation, and something about the spec just makes me feel like it literally just plays to the beat of its own drum. It doesn't really follow anything that's conventional like fire or frost, it's just its own thing. You just arcane blast the living hell out of the enemy and look at your mana bar, and that's it. And that's kind of where only damage revolves around. The simplicity of abilities, while I usually would find something to be a turnoff, I actually quite enjoy in this spec. Because, well, first of all, it's already one of the lesser specs that is played out of all the mage specs, but also because of its uniqueness in terms of the mana management. Finally, some cool system that I can kind of maintain, and a system that I can actually sort of make a mistake in. If you burn through your mana super quickly and you are not able to manage through different cycles, you don't get to do any damage. Or if you do, you get to do damage, and it's great. It puts the control in the player's hands, allowing you to be as strong as you want to be, but also letting you make mistakes, which is something some of the other specs kind of try to handhold you with. Another thing I like about the spec is I feel like it's just so much easier to gear than Fire Mage and Frost. I feel that the other specs just need a crazy amount of stats and very specific traits and essences, and while Arcane Mage can be played exactly the same way, get the best in slot stats, best in slot essences, best in slot everything, if you start with less while playing Arcane Mage, I feel like you get more out of it than starting with very little as Fire or very little as Frost. Those specs really shine at end game gear, while Arcane can give you a taste of what's it like with the introductory bonus. So I very much enjoy the spec for that simplicity, and plus, who wants to farm so many Azerite essences? Another spec on this list is gonna have to be Windwalker Monk, and I will defend this to my dying breath. I feel like Windwalker Monk objectively has one of the best playstyles in the game right now. Now, everybody's gonna have their favorite Windwalker Monk. Maybe Mr. Pandaria, the OG Windwalker, is your favorite. Maybe Warlords of Genora actually had them right. Maybe Legion was the first expansion that really did them good. But the one thing I do like right now out of Windwalker is its mastery, whichever expansion that came into, which I believe was Legion, but might have even been WoD. As long as your abilities are not a repeat of each other, they do more damage. And that simple playstyle by itself has been enjoyable. I feel like monks have probably the biggest variety of different things they do with their damage and abilities. You have everything from a channeled ability, similar to maybe like a Demon Hunter I-Beam, or a Warlock that drains the soul of an enemy, or a Shadow Priest casting Mind Flay. You have a channel ability. You have, of course, normal abilities that take a global like Jab and your Rising Sun kicks and Blackout kicks, but they're still not a boring ability because of the way that you play, the build and spend strategy of resources for monks. You have energy, which you use to build chi, and abilities that cost chi, but they don't have to cost all of your chi, like rogues with common points. Instead, they can cost 1 chi, 2 chi, or 3, and you're able to build, spend, and that simple loop is good on its own, that you don't even need haste in order to make it faster. It already feels pretty quick and pretty engaging. On top of it, you even have abilities that toss your character straight up into the air. I mean, how many other classes have stuff like this? You know, don't mind Demon Hunters with their I-Beam channels and blade dances and all the backflips and whatnot, but monks, before Demon Hunters, were one of the coolest, one of the newest classes, and I love some of the ideas that Blizzard threw at them throughout expansions. Because of their playstyle is why I had to put them on this list. The fourth spec on this list is going to be one of the Warlock specs, and there's a variety of different specs that I play. There's a variety of different classes that I play. Some of you guys might even be confused about this spec of choice here, but I'll have to go with Demonology. I know, I decided to gear up my Warlock last time you heard from me on Affliction, and that was what I was trying to do exactly with that Warlock, trying to gear out Affy to play in dungeons and maybe even raids. But recently I picked back up Demonology. I've had a love-hate relationship with Demonology. Sometimes Blizzard makes an adjustment and the playstyle is super fun, then they make a smallest adjustment that ruins the spec for me because now I have to play a playstyle that I just don't even enjoy. Then another new thing comes in like Essences, and now I can play a playstyle that I like, but then they nerf and buff some, so now I have to play a playstyle that I don't even enjoy. And basically I'm back to the love part of the relationship. The amount of haste you can stack as Demonology is actually insane. Think your Frost Death Knight rapid fire build, but instead Demonology just constantly casting spells, high amounts of haste, easy to maintain, and very, very effective. And I would really just give it to patch 8.3. As you know, we're getting more secondary stats, a lot of the specs start to get better. We're finally able to play a different playstyle of Frostdeacon that's super effective right now with some of the changes that Blizzard implemented. So I've really been enjoying Demonology actually, and I'm actually focused on trying to get some of the better essences for Demonology. That's how much I like it. But the simple playstyle is just a raw amount of haste, just a blasting enemies, just always summoning new demons, always having the cast time, and I really do enjoy that on its own. So Demonology is kind of something I'm just kind of trying to dip my toes into recently, but I cannot wait to explore more on the playstyles that Demonology offers. Already the fast-paced gameplay is something that I'm really enjoying. The last spec on this list I would have to put as Enhancement Shaman, the tried and true, my very first alt of that I really decided to commit a lot of time into to get some of the better essences on is Enhancement. Now Enhancement in PvP is by no measure an amazing spec. Some would even agree that maybe it's kind of subpar, maybe pretty low tier spec, but I liked it so much I grinded out Blood of the Enemy rank 3 for it. And I thought that after I got Blood of the Enemy rank 3 on my rogue that I will never do it again. And that is how much I enjoy my Shaman. And I did this way before they had this, 3% damage buff that I got. I actually cannot tell that the damage buff is even working right now, but it's still a very enjoyable spec, super enjoyable to play from the very beginning. And with patch 8.3, as we're getting even more secondary stats, which is primarily where Enhanced Shaman gets a lot of its strength from, the more secondary stats we gain, the better the spec starts to feel. You get enough haste so you can really get through all of your abilities faster, Vertical Strike for more crits, versatility so everything hits harder, Mastery to implement whatever Mastery mechanic a spec may have, and Enhancement I feel like definitely benefits from it. Enhancement really snowballed this patch, and you know how a snowball starts like at the very top of the mountain, it's small and it starts to roll and pick up mass and pick up speed, and I feel like towards the end of 8.3 the spec is really starting to reach the end of the mountain, and by then it's actually quite sizable, it's quite chunky, it can do quite a bit of damage at this point. And that's what I really like about Enhance, is watching that progression, but also playing a spec that I feel like objectively has a very awesome playstyle of maintaining buffs and trying to manage your resources actively and trying to keep abilities on cooldown, and you go from this sophisticated playstyle into this spam and Storm Strike all day until your fingers fall off, that back and forth between like very concentrated, very unique, very important rotations to just spam and live in hell out of your Storm Strike. Something about that playstyle I've always enjoyed. And this is going to be my list for all the specs that I've been enjoying in patch 8.3, or at least the top 5. There's a lot more specs that I've been playing, but there's so many classes that I like, and just about every class is enjoyable, but there's a few that I'm not quite sure which spec I really want to stick it out with. Warriors, for instance. I keep flip-flopping between Arms and Fury ever since Arms, particularly in this patch and in this raid tier, has become actually a lot more viable. Again, guessing it's because of all the secondary stats, the giga amounts of haste you can stack, and the criticals, but also there's, you know, Fury, and I just keep swapping back and forth, and then there's Priests, and then there's Druids, and maybe I should try out Boomkin sometime to see if I enjoy how Boomy feels, and then so on and so forth. So there's still going to be plenty of time for me to catch all of my alts up and running. All I can do is just take care of them one at a time and hope for the best. But so far in my list, these are the characters, besides my rogue, that I have an immense want to get on and play every single day. A lot of you guys come to the streams and you see some of the specs and you see how much I enjoy them, and hopefully this video gives you guys a bit of an idea in case you want to pick up a brand new spec. You know, the wait for Shadowlands is going to be quite a while. Maybe these will be some of the ideas that you guys can take from this video and apply towards yourselves. You never really know. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do hope you enjoyed. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see all of you in another video.